Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished esteemed professionals, good evening. Welcome back to the groundbreaking series brought to you by the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants and Chartered Financial Analysts, Climate Finance Series into Carbon Trading. Tonight's event is a continuation from our kickoff webinar back in August 2023 on the introductions of climate finance. And now we deep dive further into the instruments of finance, which are carbon trading. In collaborations between ACCA and CFA Institute, this event marks a significant step forward on our joint efforts to actively contribute in ESG capacity building. Tonight, we gather to explore the intricacies of climate finance with a special focus on the emerging Indonesia Carbon Exchange. We are delighted to have a diverse audience tonight comprising ACCA members and affiliates, CFA charter holders and candidates, policymakers, and representatives from various industries and Chamber of Commerce. The event is to build the sense of urgency on climate crisis, accelerating the green transitions in Indonesia. We aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of carbon accounting, the initial step in the carbon credit ecosystem. We'll delve into the cap and trade mechanism within the emission trading system, and our goal to explore financial market efforts beyond carbon trading and identify sustainable finance products that can leverage the resources to accelerate into net zero. I am Afif Alfarizi from ACCA Indonesia, who will be the masters of ceremony for tonight's event. And I'm delighted to welcome you all to this momentous occasion. Our journey into the realm of climate finance begins. To officially open our event, please join me in welcoming Mr. Andrew Lim, the Portfolio Head of ACCA Maritime Southeast Asia, to have an opening remarks. Mr. Andrew Lim, stage is yours.
A very good evening to all of you, and it is my pleasure to be here tonight for this very important occasion. I would like to firstly thank all of you for taking time and the trouble to support this event, and I wanted to send my warmest regards to our honorable guests today, to Pak Alu Dohong, the Honorable Vice Minister for Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, also to Pak Pahala Mansuri, the Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs, also the President of CFA Society Indonesia, Pak Triyono Sudejo, Vice President of CFA Society Indonesia, and Partner Transaction Advisory of PwC Indonesia. I'm excited for this opportunity to again add my congratulations and thanks to all our colleagues and our friends across ACCA and CFA Society for everything they have done to support this successful and significant partnership on the vital issue of climate finance. Now, this event builds on the introduction of climate finance webinar we staged earlier in August. And we all look forward and eagerly to many more events together as we continue to work and promote our cause of responsible and sustainable climate finance. I'd like to take this moment to express why climate finance is so central to our times and at the heart of our goals, aims, and strategies right now. So much of this is described clearly and compellingly in ACCA's study, Green Finance Skills, the Guide. It describes how professional accountants can help the integration and the migration of sustainable economies and businesses of becoming experts in climate finance. In our volatile economic and political landscapes, access to cheaper capital is central to organizations' long-term survival. Leaders are increasingly offering attractive green rates to organizations that meet sustainability requirements. So rather than a nice-to-have green finance, is it really emerging as a necessity and competitively priced capital that keeps businesses in business. And in that sense, climate finance is an engine of competitive advantage. By embedding sustainability into all activities, organizations will drive value creation. Research for the Global Economic Conditions Survey by ACCA found that organizations worldwide are attaching more importance to environmental factors, and with their leaders anticipating significant changes to business practices to meet net zero targets. Understandably, they need more support from their finance professionals to increase access to green finance, and that will undergo the transition to net zero. Businesses told our researchers as well they don't know enough about climate finance opportunities and climate risk management. That's why our profession's ability to understand the green finance options needed for this transition is key to equipping organizations with this exercise. Now, having the skills to consider non-financial as well as financial business drivers will also leave the profession well placed to lead training and developing the talents needed for enabling transformation and embedding sustainability. ACCA is proud to play a leading role in supporting finance professionals to help organizations develop well-structured and risk-reducing sustainable development initiatives and portfolios of greener assets. That includes our climate finance course designed by experts from ACCA and CFA Institute in response to the demand for skills and training in this fast-developing area. As you know, the course introduces climate changes and related economic and environmental impacts, with particular emphasis on the role of finance professionals in creating and implementing solutions to global challenges. It is a practical and applied digital course designed to support businesses, finance and accounting professionals, as well as any individual seeking practical guidance on climate change and climate-related finance matters. This course will also help gain an understanding on fundamental of climate change, the drivers, the risks, the consequences, and the role of climate finance. It helps people to also understand different climate initiatives and related governance and disclosure frameworks. It demystifies carbon pricing and accounting, understand the proposition of a sustainable economy and business model, gain practical knowledge for integrating climate risk into investment analysis and portfolio construction. We know that we are already seeing the climate change and the journey to net zero will have a great financial impact on organizations' position, performance, and of course, future outlook. The sustainability journey that organization needs to embark on today involves defining net zero strategies as well as setting time-bound targets relevant to the value chain. Now, exactly the precise cause of climate change and net zero journey are highly uncertain, and it is only to all clear that economies and organizations will feel the big impact over the coming decades. The green transition demands long-term financing. Green bonds, carbon pricing, and sustainability-linked loans will all play an important role if we all were to reach net zero by 2050. I would like to conclude by quoting ACCA's Chief Executive Helen Brand in her recent engagement at COP28 in Dubai. And she's mentioned if all 3 million accountants globally and around the world are upskilled with the necessary knowledge and skills, then we could all drive the real change together. And ACCA is focused in supporting businesses wanting to be part of climate change, solutions, and impact investors. And once again, congratulations to all of you for all that you have done, everything that you will be doing, and I know everything that you will do in the future to help advance the cause of climate finance, and of course to build sustainable businesses and economies together, offering a bright future for our people, whoever and wherever they are. Many thanks and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lim, on your welcome remarks. And let's hear another welcoming remarks from our distinguished Vice President of CFA Society Indonesia, Bapak Triyono Sudirjo CFA, partner at PwC Advisory Indonesia. Pak Triyono, you may set the stage.
Good evening, honorable guest, Bapak Alu Dohong, Deputy Minister of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, honorable guest, Bapak Pahala Mansuri, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, and also the Vice President of CFA Indonesia, my esteemed fellow from ACCA, Mr. Andrew Lim, the Portfolio Head of ACCA, and Ibu Julia Simatupang, the Country Manager, and also esteemed panelists and moderators, including my fellow partner Mano from Malaysia, came down all the way here, number of colleagues, Pak Denny, and also my distinguished member of CFA Charter Holder. Welcome to the event in this evening. We are proud to bring you our second collaboration with ACCA Indonesia, the seminar into carbon trading. Our first collaboration is a webinar called Introducing Climate Finance, which is a short online course jointly developed by ACCA and CFA Institute. The climate finance course gives a preliminary understanding and guidance around climate change and climate-related finance matters. On the CFA part, we also see the need for financial professionals, investment decision-making professionals, to be able to understand the financial impact and acquire the skills necessary to evaluate the impact of ESG into their investment decision-makings. Hence, CFA Institute has come up with ESG in Investing certificate to help our finance professionals master the real-world investing skills that incorporate environmental, social, and governance factors. As a follow-up, last month, CFA Institute launched what we call Climate Risk Valuation and Investing Certificate. This is an intermediate level of certificate for investment professionals who want the skills needed to integrate climate principles into valuation, portfolio construction, scenario analysis, and also to communicate their insights effectively. And then in September 2023, Indonesia launched the carbon exchange to facilitate domestic and international carbon trading, which will create new development in valuation, reporting, and accounting in carbon credit. This is a promising new area which will need to be jointly developed by each of us in terms of setting the standards as well as the best practice. We all need to define each of our roles to actively play in supporting a successful carbon market. Finally, I would like to have an insightful seminar and inspiring panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Triyono, on your welcoming remarks. Next, we will have a special address shedding light on the critical role of Indonesia's place in climate finance by our Deputy Minister for Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, Bapak Alu Dohong. Mr. Alu Dohong is the Deputy Minister of Environment and Forestry who appointed by President Joko Widodo in 25 October 2019. Before being the Deputy Minister, Bapak Alu Dohong serves as Deputy for Constructions, Operations and Maintenance of a peat restoration agency since 2016. Bapak Alu Dohong is a Dayak descent and teaches natural resources and environmental management at Palangkaraya Universities before taking part at BRG. Bapak Alu founded Institute Environmental Assessment, Education and Training in Palangkaraya, Central Kalimantan. Bapak Alu Dohong, you may have your keynote speech on the stage.
Excellency, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as President of CFA Society Indonesia, Bapak Pahala Mansuri, and Honorables, the portfolio heads of ACCA Maritime Southeast Asia, Mr. Andrew Lim, and also Honorable Vice President of CFA Society Indonesia, Pak Triyono Sudirjo, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me begin by congratulating the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, or ACCA, and Chartered Financial Analysts, or CFA, for organizing this very important event. I thank also to having me here in this very deliberation event where we gather to discuss a theme of building the urgency on climate crisis to further accelerate green transition in Indonesia. The topic, of course, holds a significance as we navigate the challenges of climate change and strive to create sustainable solutions to our beloved nation, Indonesia. The world today is currently facing triple planetary crises that are climate change, the loss of biodiversity, and pollution. As we all know, the impacts of this triple planetary crisis, particularly climate change, is undeniable, undebatable, and it's called for immediate and collective actions. The Indonesian government has committed to addressing the impacts of climate change through our pledge in reducing GHG emission, along with enhancing adaptive capacity and reducing climate vulnerability, as stated in our enhanced NDC, or Enhanced Nationally Determined Contribution, that Indonesia submitted to the UNFCCC Secretariat in September 2022. In this NDC document, we increase our commitment toward the Paris Agreement, where CM1, we called it countermeasure 1, we pledged to reduce emission by 31.89%, or equivalent to 950 million tons CO2 equivalents that we have to reduce by 2030. So 7 years remaining or left with our own resources. And if there is an international assistance or international resource mobilization, our pledge now become 43.20%, or equivalent to 1.24 billion CO2 equivalent that we have to reduce by 2030. This is considered as the ambitious, right, compared to other countries sometimes. Even if we see, the current report published by the UNEP, actually the global world need to reduce about 43% of the GHG in order to achieve a Paris Agreement goals, 2 degrees toward 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030. So Indonesia even beyond that kind of global average. Even for your information, Indonesia is currently preparing the second NDC, which will be completed by 2025 at the latest. Which will be fully aligned with the Paris Agreement temperature goal. So this year, Conference of the Parties of UNFCCC 28 in Dubai, where Pak Pahala also there, accompanied our President. Actually, the most important because one of the particular issues discussed in this COP28 is about global stocktake. Global stocktakes in 3 areas. First, about adaptation pledge. Second, the first is mitigation. Second, adaptation. And the third is means of implementation. That's mean including resource mobilization and technology. So in this COP this year, all, and this is implementation of the Paris Agreement parties need to be reviewed, need to be checked it out, whether they're still on the track toward the 2 degrees and 1.5 degrees Paris Agreement goals, or we need to move even biggers, you know, and including resource mobilization or mean of implementation. Actually, starting from when this Paris Agreement enacted or adopted by all parties, the developed countries promised to mobilize climate finance about 100 billion US dollar per year. But up to now, never happened this promise fulfilled. Even last year, in COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, this 100 billion was not achievable. And this year, like 3-4 days ago, it's already announced that only 57 up to 60 billion US dollar commitment being achieved. So this is still far away from 100 billion US dollar. So why I mention this? Because in order to implement NDCs, particularly for the developing countries, financial issues is one of the requirements, right? We have two financial instruments that actually can be used in the Paris Agreement. First, from Article 5 of the Paris Agreement. This Article 5 specifically, developing countries or tropical countries can receive, we call it result-based payment out of implementation, reducing emission from deforestation and forest degradation. And Indonesia, honestly, one out of many countries that already received this result-based payment. For example, we received from GCF, Green Climate Funds, about 105 million US dollar for our performance to reduce emission from REDD plus from 2014 up to 2016, right, for 2 years. And we also received from our collaboration with Norway about 56 million US dollar. And during this COP28, also the government of Norway promised to, again, to give a result-based payment about 100 million US dollar. And been just 2 days ago signed by Ambassador of Norway to Indonesia and the directors or President Director of BPWDH, or we call it Environmental Funds in Indonesia. And we also have a collaboration with World Bank in East Kalimantan for the carbon partnership, about 103 million US dollar, and Jambi in the 5 lines. So that's from the Article 5. But we also hope from the Article 6, market-based, that you are talking here, I think, about carbon, carbon trading, whatever we call it. So this kind of two mainstream of financial that we can hope we can get it in order to fund the NDC. And related with this carbon pricing, Indonesia has enacted some regulation. For example, government of Indonesia has enacted Presidential Regulation number 98/2021 concerning, we call it carbon pricing, right? And Ministry of Environment and Forestry Regulation number 21/2022 concerning the governance of this carbon pricing. And also Minister of Environment and Forestry Regulation number 7/2023 concerning implementation of carbon trading or carbon pricing in the forestry sectors. And also Ministry of Energy, I think they also enacted regulation on the implementation of carbon pricing in the energy sectors. And the last but not least, I think the Financial Authority Regulation, ya, OJK itu kita sebut Financial Authority in Indonesia, number 14 if I'm not mistaken, ya. Sorry, number 7. 2023 regarding the carbon exchange in Indonesia. So this kind of instrument actually that we have provide, in order to fund our climate change in 5 sectors: forestry and land use, energy, industrial product and product uses, agriculture and waste sector. But there are 2 particular major contributors of our energy, actually forest and land use sectors, about 500 million tons CO2 equivalent that we have to reduce from forestry and agriculture by 2030 with our effort. And energy sector, like nearly 400 million tons CO2 that we have to reduce also. So these are 2 big particular sectors. And if we talk about carbon pricing or carbon market or trading in Indonesia, we have to also understand the architecture of it. For example, in our regulation, if you're doing this kind of carbon trading, or if you understand the architecture of this carbon trading, first of all, you have to develop, we call it emission reduction plan, right? And then second, you have to develop methodology, how to measure everything. And then the next is you have to follow the MRV system. So monitoring, reporting, and validation or verification system. And afterward, the issuance of certified emission reduction. And the certificate can be traded through the market, through the carbon exchange. Also, you can do it bilaterally from one companies that need to reduce the emission with other companies that produce this emission reduction certificate. So that the architecture in Indonesia, this domestically. But even if we have international collaboration with other countries, for example, or I forget one element actually, national registration system, the first one. So if we have a collaboration with other countries, like let's say Japan or Singapore, whatever, and we need to have, we call it a gentle agreement between 2 countries, right? Because they have to have a similar national registry system. Why this very important? Because in the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, 6.2 or 4, we need to avoid double counting, double claiming. That's the issues. So need we call it adjustment, between these 2 countries. Because later on, UNFCCC will have an international registration system. So when we sell certified emission reduction to the Singapore, and Singapore claim it to the NDC, we have to register in our national register system, but we retired it, so we not claim it to our UNFCCC. So that's why it's very important to have this kind of agreement and mutual registration system that need to be understood by all parties. Sometimes also I need to stress here, because I'm from Forestry and Environment Ministry. There is a misleading information concerning carbon in the forestry sectors. Let's say peatland or mangrove. I saw there is an estimation that we have 33 billion carbon in our mangrove that we can sell it. To me, this is not really right information, right? Based on the scientific studies, 1 hectare of mangrove is only contain maximum around 1,000 ton carbon. And this carbon stock, right, both in the above, below, and burial carbon altogether. So Indonesia has 3.34 million ton of mangrove in this country. So that means if we take that number, so a mangrove just contain or storage about 3.3 gigaton of carbon, not 33 gigaton of carbon. So that 10 times misleading figures, right? So, and this stock, we can't just slowly trade it, right? We can't just sell off this kind of 3.3 gigaton of mangrove, carbon in mangrove to the market. No. In doing this carbon activities or carbon trading related with mangrove, the most important is we call it additionality. Yeah, that's mean additionality based on the effort. So you have to measure when you plant mangrove trees, you have to measure all this kind of sequestration of CO2 into the biomass, right? And you have to check for the next year, you have to see the differences between the last stock and the previous stock. And the differences is that eligible to be traded or to be certificate or to be certified, right? Not the whole stock. Even if there is a leakage happen, like illegal logging happen in the mangrove, or if something like fires happen, you have to discount that, right? So that means net carbon sequestration that eligible to be certified. So not the whole 3.3 billion carbon stock in the mangrove. Similarly with peatland, we have 13.4 million hectares of peatland. Based on scientific studies, our peatland stored between 38 up to 55 billion ton of CO2 equivalent. Yeah, but again, you can't sell straight away this kind of number. 38 up to this 55 billion ton of carbon stock in the peatland. You have to do effort. You have to do emission reduction activities, and you have to do a MRV of it, and you have to come up with the net sequestration. So why I mention this, because so many misleading in the public, fora about this, as if that we're going to generate thousand of, $billion, just simply plant 1, 2, 3 of the mangrove seedlings, so peatland and so on, in order to avoid this misleading. Next, one of the particular important that I do believe the CFA and ACCA can be work on is about capacity building. If I mention of MRP, so we need substantial numbers of validators and verificators of doing these carbon issues, not in the only energy sector, but forestry sectors, land use sector, and also waste and agriculture. So we need upscaling all these kind of human resources to do that. Because currently, in Indonesia, we just have 5 companies, if I'm not mistaken, as validators and verificators institutional. So we need more. Otherwise, we rely on the international verificators and validators. You understand all is very expensive, right? But if we can develop this domestically, maybe we can reduce the cost for transaction cost, especially for MRP activities. So that can be compete, Otherwise, if we use international validators and verificators, can be very expensive, and all this kind of carbon revenue may be just, used for, pay all this kind of international verificator and validators. That was very impressive. So I do believe CFA and ACCA can work on this capacity building to scale up capacity building not only within the corporation, but also within other stakeholders, because we do need that at the moment. Yeah. And the last one that I need to stress here is collaboration and collective action are necessary for us to achieve, these NDCs and as well as for Indonesia to have its commitment toward the Paris Agreement. So this is not belong to the government, not implemented by the government only, but we have to do it together. All stakeholders need to be engaged, need to be participate, because these are collective pledge together from all stakeholders. So that's, I think, I do hope what I mentioned here can be discerned, can be later discussed more detail in this event. And I apologize if something not really proper, my statement, whatever, in this particular event, and I do apologize. Thank you very much for your all kind attention.